The order. The night sky above New Haven Outpost shimmered with faint blue lights from alien ships waiting for clearance. Officer Daniel Ward stood at the docking bay, his jaw tight, his heart heavier than the metal badge on his chest. He had done many deportations before, smugglers, criminals, refugees who overstayed their permits. But this one was different. This time, the target was a mother and her child. An alien woman from the Illyrian race, tall, silver-skinned, with eyes that glowed faintly when she breathed, and her little girl, barely 7 cycles old. Their ship had crashed months ago, and since then, they had lived quietly among humans. They hadn't harmed anyone. They hadn't broken any law, except existing without papers. But new orders had come from command. Deport all undocumented non-humans immediately. Daniel read the order again and again. The words felt cold, mechanical, written by people who had never seen the fear in someone's eyes when the soldiers came knocking. He adjusted his uniform, exhaled, and stepped toward the detention chamber. Through the glass, he saw the Illyrian woman, Laria, sitting still, her hands folded, her daughter asleep beside her on a thin blanket. The child's name was Kale, and even in sleep, she clutched her mother's arm tightly. Daniel hesitated before entering. He wasn't supposed to feel anything. Rules were rules, but something inside him twisted. When he finally opened the door, the air felt heavy. Laria looked up slowly, her voice calm but tired. "Is it time?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He looked at the sleeping child, at the small hand gripping her mother's sleeve. "Tomorrow morning," he said quietly, "you'll be transferred to Port 9 and boarded on the shuttle back to Illyria." The woman nodded. No tears, no begging, only quiet acceptance. That calmness hurt him even more than fear would have. He turned to leave, but then a soft voice stopped him. "Please, sir." He turned back, and Laria was standing now, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "Kale doesn't understand," she said. "She thinks we are going home, not being sent away." Daniel swallowed hard. "Maybe that's for the best." The woman shook her head. "No, she deserves to know the truth, but I cannot tell her." "Then why are you telling me this?" Daniel asked. "Because," she whispered, "humans understand kindness. I want her to remember that." Daniel didn't sleep that night. Her words echoed in his mind like a storm. Humans understand kindness. He had spent years following orders, protecting borders, drawing lines between species. But when he closed his eyes, all he saw was that small girl's hand holding onto her mother's sleeve. By morning, he decided he would do what he always did, follow the rules. But a small part of him wished the universe would give him a reason not to. That reason came sooner than expected. At dawn, alarms echoed through the outpost, red lights flashing, guards shouting. Daniel rushed to the holding bay, his heart pounding. The cell door was open, the guard on duty unconscious. For a split second, he thought they had escaped. But then he saw Laria, kneeling beside the wounded guard, pressing a glowing hand over his chest, sealing the bleeding wound with her energy. She wasn't running, she was saving him. Daniel froze, watching in disbelief. Laria looked up at him, exhausted. He would have died. Daniel's throat tightened. "You could have escaped." She shook her head. "And leave a man to die? That's not who we are." In that moment, something inside Daniel broke. All the propaganda, all the laws, all the cold words about security, they suddenly felt hollow. He looked at her, at the child hiding behind her legs, and for the first time, he didn't see an alien. He saw a mother. He saw humanity. Then the voice of his commander echoed through his earpiece. "Ward, secure the detainees. No exceptions." Daniel closed his eyes, his hand hovering over his weapon. The woman looked at him, silent, waiting for his choice. And then, a small hand grabbed his uniform. It was Kale, the little alien girl, tears in her luminous eyes, her voice trembling. "Please, don't take my mom." The words hit him harder than any bullet ever could. His hand fell to his side. He looked at the mother and daughter, and in that instant, Daniel Ward stopped being an officer. He became human again. The choice. Daniel stood frozen, his breath shallow, the child's trembling voice echoing in his ears. "Please don't take my mom." The words clung to him like a ghost, haunting every heartbeat. He looked down at Kale, her silver blue eyes wide with fear, and he realized something inside him had already changed. Outside the detention bay, The sirens were still wailing, soldiers rushing past, unaware of what had just happened inside. Daniel's comm link buzzed again, the commander's voice sharp and demanding. Ward, report. Have you secured the detainees? He hesitated, his finger hovering over the button. Then he clicked it and said flatly, situation under control, proceeding to lockdown. He cut the line before they could ask more, his hands trembling. Lariah watched him silently, her expression unreadable. You're risking everything, she said softly, for us. Daniel didn't answer. He just moved toward the security console and began typing commands. He erased the camera footage from the past 10 minutes, bypassed the system logs, and shut down the alarm in this sector. Lariah's eyes widened slightly. You're helping us. He looked at her, frustration and fear in his voice. I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I just can't watch a child lose her mother again. Lariah tilted her head, again. Daniel didn't respond, but his silence said enough. He led them through a narrow maintenance corridor, the hum of machines vibrating through the metal walls. Kale clung to her mother's arm, her little steps echoing softly. Every shadow felt alive, every turn dangerous. If they were caught, Daniel would face court-martial, or worse, execution for treason. But the thought didn't slow him down. They reached the cargo hangar, the air filled with the low drone of departing ships. Daniel turned to them, whispering urgently, there's a service freighter leaving in 10 minutes. It's headed toward the outer rings. No scanners, no patrol. Lariah shook her head. They'll track us before we reach orbit. I can disable the beacon, Daniel said. But once you're gone, I can't help you anymore. Lariah looked at him for a long moment. Why help us at all? Human. He sighed. Because maybe your people deserve better than what mine has become. Kale tugged his sleeve, her small voice breaking the silence. Will you come with us? Daniel froze, the question hitting him like a blade. He wanted to say yes, to leave this cold, cruel system behind, but he couldn't. I can't, he said softly. If I go missing, they'll hunt you faster. Someone has to erase your trail. Kale's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded bravely. Lariah placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder, the faint glow of her energy warm against his skin. Whatever happens, you've already done more than you know. He handed her a small chip. This has clearance codes, temporary ones. They'll last 3 hours. Use them to bypass the launch barrier. She took it gently. And what about you? Daniel forced a smile. I'll say you overpowered me, stole a ship. He tried to sound calm, but his chest ached with guilt and fear. Lariah's expression softened. May your kindness return to you, Daniel Ward. Then she turned, leading Kale toward the waiting freighter. Daniel watched them go, the sound of the ship's engines rising. For a moment, hope flickered in his heart. But then, a voice behind him, cold and sharp. Ward, what have you done? Daniel spun around, his stomach sinking. It was Commander Harlan, flanked by 2 armed soldiers. The commander's eyes burned with fury as he glanced at the open hangar bay and the departing freighter. You let them escape, he hissed, an alien and her child. Daniel's pulse raced, but he kept his voice steady. They were harmless, sir. Refugees, not enemies. Refugees, Harlan barked. You disobeyed direct orders. You compromised Earth security. The soldiers raised their weapons. Daniel lifted his hands slowly, his mind racing. Behind Harlan, the freighter disappeared into the clouds, vanishing toward the stars. He felt a strange calm wash over him. I followed my conscience, sir, he said, something we seem to have misplaced. Harlan's face twisted with rage. You're done. Ward, take him to holding. As the soldiers grabbed him, Daniel smiled faintly. Because far above the outpost, beyond radar reach, a mother and her daughter were finally free. And deep in his heart, Daniel knew. This was only the beginning. The prisoner and the stars. Daniel sat in the dim interrogation room, wrists bound to the cold metal table, the light above him flickering like a dying star. It had been 12 hours since he was arrested, 12 hours of silence. No sleep, no food, just the steady hum of the generator and the echo of his own thoughts. He replayed Kale's words over and over in his mind. Please don't take my mom. They burned brighter than any guilt, brighter than any punishment he could face. The door hissed open, and Commander Harlan stepped in, his face calm now, almost too calm. He sat across from Daniel, tapping a digital pad against the table. "You've made quite a mess, Ward," he said quietly. Daniel looked up, his eyes red but defiant. "I did what was right." Harlan smirked. "Right? You broke protocol, erased government data, and aided the escape of a classified alien." "She was a mother," Daniel replied, his voice low. "And that child was a potential threat," Harlan interrupted coldly. "You think their tears make them innocent? You have no idea what these creatures are capable of." Daniel clenched his fists. "I saw what they're capable of, sir. Compassion." For a second, Harlan's expression faltered, but then the mask returned. "You've been infected by sentiment," he said sharply, "and that's dangerous." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "You're going to sign a confession, say they overpowered you, that you acted under duress, and maybe you'll get to live on Mars colony instead of rotting here." Daniel's eyes hardened. "And if I don't?" Harlan smiled thinly. "Then you'll vanish, like the others who started feeling sorry for aliens." He stood up to leave, but Daniel spoke again, calm and firm. "You can lock me up, sir, but you can't stop the truth." Harlan turned slightly, his voice like ice. "Truth doesn't matter, Ward. Only the story we tell." Then he walked out, the door sliding shut with a hiss, leaving Daniel alone again. Hours passed, the air in the cell thick and still. Daniel's mind wandered, to his old life, to the faces of people he'd deported before. He had told himself it was for order, for peace, for safety. But now, he realized it had been easier to obey than to feel. He finally understood the weight of humanity. It wasn't about who followed the rules, but who chose compassion in a world that punished it. Suddenly, the lights flickered, the room shaking slightly. An alarm blared, not the harsh siren of a breach, but a deep mechanical wail. Then the intercom crackled. "System failure in Dock Sector 7. Security lockdown initiated." Daniel frowned. Dock 7. That was where the freighter had launched from. He felt his pulse quicken, something inside whispering that this was no coincidence. The cell door clicked once, twice, then slowly slid open. He blinked, stunned, then heard a soft mechanical hum. A small drone hovered in the hallway, projecting a pale blue light. "Daniel Ward," it said in a childlike voice, "follow me." He froze, recognizing the voice immediately. Kale's. Not real Kale, but her voice, recorded and embedded in the drone's message. His heart pounded as he followed it through the dim corridors. They weaved through empty halls, past flickering security panels. Finally, the drone led him into an old maintenance tunnel, where a hidden hatch waited. Inside the hatch was a small pod, half human tech, half Alarian design. The drone projected one final message, a hologram flickering to life before him. Laria appeared, her face calm and bright even through distortion. "Daniel," her voice was soft, "you risked your life for us. Now it's our turn." She continued, "We intercepted your signal. Your arrest was expected, but the stars remember kindness, and so do we." The image flickered, showing coordinates in the upper sky sector. "This pod will take you to orbit. Someone will find you there." Daniel stared at the projection, disbelief mixing with awe. She had come back, or at least, she had sent something to save him. He climbed into the pod, the hatch sealing shut, the engines humming to life. As the pod launched upward, the world below shrank, the outpost fading into a sea of clouds and lights. For the first time in years, Daniel felt free. No ranks, no orders, no borders, just the endless black of space. He looked out the small viewport, stars glimmering like promises. He whispered to himself, "I guess the stars really do remember kindness." Then, as he drifted beyond the exosphere, the pod sensors detected something. A faint signal, encrypted, pulsing slowly in the void. He activated it, and a familiar voice filled the cabin, Kale's voice. "Daniel, Mom says thank you." He smiled, eyes wet with quiet relief. And somewhere, far beyond his sight, an Alarian ship shimmered against the darkness, waiting for him. The stars remember kindness. The pod drifted through the void, silent as a dream. Daniel floated inside, the faint hum of life support whispering like a heartbeat. The stars outside burned cold and brilliant, and for the first time in his life, he felt small but free. Still, doubt gnawed at him. Where was he going? Who would find him? Would Laria even be there? Then, the signal pulsed again, brighter, clearer. A flash of light appeared ahead, unfolding like a metallic flower in space. An enormous vessel emerged from the shadows, its hull carved with glowing blue veins of energy, unmistakably Alarian. Daniel's chest tightened with a mix of awe and fear. Before he could react, the pod's engines powered down, caught by a magnetic field. He was being pulled toward the ship. Inside the vessel, the light shifted from blue to gold, soft and warm. The pod docked gently, the hatch sliding open with a hiss. Daniel hesitated, his breath misting in the cool air. A figure appeared in the doorway, tall, graceful, and unmistakable. "Daniel Ward," said a familiar voice. It was Lariah, her silver eyes shining with relief. "You made it." Daniel stepped out, his boots echoing on the sleek metal floor. He could hardly speak. You risked coming back for me." Lariah smiled faintly. "You risked everything first." Before he could say more, a small voice interrupted. "Daniel." Kale ran toward him, her little feet barely making a sound as she threw her arms around his waist. He froze, then knelt and hugged her tightly, his heart twisting. For the first time since the outpost, he smiled without guilt. "You found me." Kale grinned. "Mom said you're family now." The words hit deeper than he expected, almost making him forget that the universe still wanted him dead. Lariah led him through a corridor alive with light. Strange geometric patterns glowed under their feet, guiding their path. The ship felt alive, humming with soft energy, as if it could sense their presence. "We've been hiding among the outer moons," Lariah explained. "Humans call them uninhabitable, but for us, they're sanctuary." Daniel nodded slowly. "So what happens now?" Lariah's expression darkened. "Now, you see what your people have done." She took him into a large chamber where holograms flickered in midair, maps of planets, wrecked colonies, burning skies. "These are Alarian refugee ships," she said, her voice heavy. "Destroyed by human patrols after the new directive. They call it Operation Purity." Daniel felt his stomach turn. "I thought the deportations were just relocation orders." "They're not," she interrupted quietly. "They're executions." He turned away, guilt stabbing at his chest. "All this time, I was helping them." Lariah stepped closer, her voice softer. "You were following orders, as all humans do, but now you've seen the truth. That makes you dangerous to your own kind." Daniel exhaled shakily. "They'll come after me. After all of us." "Yes," she said. "And that's why we must act before they reach us." Before he could ask more, the lights dimmed, and a deep voice echoed through the chamber. "Lariah, incoming transmission. Human fleet detected entering Sector 6. Daniel's pulse quickened. "They found you already?" Lariah's eyes narrowed. "No, they found you." He turned toward the holographic display, dozens of ships closing in, each marked with the Human Alliance insignia. They weren't here for war, they were hunting him. "Commander Harlan won't stop," Daniel muttered. "He'll burn every world to prove he's right." Lariah looked at him sharply. "Then we'll show him what mercy looks like." The ship trembled as energy fields powered up. Kale grabbed Daniel's hand, her small voice steady. "We can't fight them, right?" Daniel knelt. "Sometimes the bravest thing isn't fighting, Kale. It's protecting what matters." Lariah's gaze softened, hearing his words. "You've learned quickly," she said. "Perhaps humanity isn't lost after all." Moments later, alarms blared again. The human fleet was within range. Daniel ran to the command deck, the windows showing the terrifying beauty of the stars filled with incoming ships. Lariah stood at the helm, calm but resolute. "Daniel," she said, "you know their tactics, their weapons. Help us survive this." He hesitated, torn between loyalty and conscience. But then he saw Kale's frightened face, and everything became clear. He nodded. "All right, let's outthink them, not outgun them." He quickly began issuing suggestions, pointing to shield vectors and decoy maneuvers. The Alarian crew followed his lead, blending human strategy with alien technology. The ship darted through asteroid fields, invisible to scanners. As explosions lit the dark sky, Daniel realized something powerful. He wasn't just saving aliens anymore. He was saving what humanity was supposed to stand for. After a tense pursuit, the human fleet lost them in the debris of a shattered moon. Silence returned to space, broken only by the soft hum of Alarian engines. Lariah turned to him, her voice filled with quiet awe. You just saved 100 lives, Daniel. He gave a tired smile. Maybe I was finally doing my job right. Kale giggled, wrapping her tiny hand around his. Mom says humans are complicated, she whispered. But I think you're good. Daniel looked at her, his heart aching in a way that felt almost holy. If I am, he said softly, it's because of you. Far away, on Earth, Commander Harlan watched the radar feed showing the vanished blip. His voice dripped with venom. You can run, Ward, but the stars aren't big enough to hide you forever. And somewhere beyond the human scanners, Daniel Ward looked out the viewport, toward a future full of war, hope, and fragile peace. A future where he'd have to decide which side of humanity he truly belonged to. Shadows over Sanctuary. The stars above the Alarian Sanctuary moon shimmered with quiet deceit, calm and beautiful. But Daniel knew that peace in space was always an illusion. The Alarian ship descended toward the hidden colony, a web of silver domes nestled inside a crater shielded by magnetic storms, invisible to most scanners. Lariah stood beside him at the viewport, her voice hushed. This is all that's left of us. Daniel could see families below, alien children playing near the glowing pools, elders tending strange crystal crops, soldiers standing guard with weary eyes. He felt the weight of their trust pressing against his chest. He had brought danger here, and he knew it. When they landed, a council awaited them, tall Alarian elders wrapped in robes that shimmered like moonlight. One of them, an aged male with deep silver markings across his face, spoke first. You brought a human into our sanctuary. His tone carried no anger, just quiet disappointment. Lariah bowed slightly. He saved us when none of our own could. Another elder narrowed her eyes. And now he has led the hunters to our doorstep. Daniel stepped forward, guilt sharp in his voice. If they find you, it won't be because of me. I erased every trace. The elder tilted his head. Humans build machines to see beyond their lies. Daniel Ward, they will come. The air thickened, silence stretching like glass. Then Kale ran forward and stood in front of Daniel, small but fierce. He's good, she cried. He helped Mom. He helped me. He helps everyone. Her voice cracked, and for a moment, even the elders softened. One of them sighed. Perhaps the stars sent him for a reason. Lariah placed a gentle hand on Daniel's shoulder. Come, there's something you must see. She led him deep into the inner chambers of the sanctuary, through halls lined with pulsing blue veins of light. At the center lay an enormous crystal, floating, glowing from within, humming softly. This is the heart of Alaria, she said. It powers every ship, every home, every life we have left. Daniel stared, mesmerized. It's beautiful. It's dying, Lariah whispered. The human's mind its twin from our world, draining the balance. Without it, even this sanctuary will fade. Daniel frowned, realization hitting him. That's why they're expanding the deportations. It's not just fear, it's control. Lariah nodded. They take, because they can. He clenched his fists, anger and sorrow mixing in his chest. I helped them do this, he muttered. Every deportation, every ship I escorted. I was part of it. She looked at him gently. And now you're part of something else. Before he could respond, the chamber lights flickered red. An alarm blared through the sanctuary, echoing like thunder across the domes. A voice shouted through the comms. Human ships entering orbit. Hundreds of them. Lariah's face went pale. They found us. Daniel's blood ran cold. No, they followed me. Outside, the skies burned, streaks of fire as drop pods cut through the clouds. The Alarian guards rushed into position, energy shields flaring to life. Daniel grabbed a comlink, his voice firm. Get your civilians underground. Use the magnetic tunnels. They can't scan through those. Lariah glanced at him. And what about you? I'm going to talk to them, he said. She stared in disbelief. Talk? Daniel, they came with weapons, not words. He met her eyes, determination solid. Then I'll give them something they don't expect. He boarded one of the surface towers, connecting the comms frequency of the incoming fleet. Static filled the air. Then a voice broke through, cold and sharp. Officer Ward. Or should I say, Traitor Ward. It was Commander Harlan, his tone dripping with triumph. I should have known your bleeding heart would lead us right to them. Daniel closed his eyes, steadying his breath. You don't have to do this, sir. There are civilians here, families, children. Harlan laughed bitterly. They're not families. They're parasites living under stolen stars. They saved me, Daniel shouted. They saved you. The day they didn't strike back. But Harlan's voice hardened. This isn't about saving. It's about cleansing. Earth's future belongs to humans, and humans alone. The line went dead, replaced by the rumble of gunships preparing to fire. Lariah appeared beside him, her expression grim. There's no reasoning with them. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then we make them listen another way. He rushed to the control panel and opened a broad-frequency transmission, visible to every ship in orbit, human or Alarian. Attention to all forces. His voice echoed, raw and desperate. This is Officer Daniel Ward, formerly of the Earth Border Command. He paused, breath trembling. You've been told these people are dangerous, that they're invaders, but I've lived among them, seen them heal our wounded, save our soldiers, show mercy we've forgotten. He looked toward the camera, eyes blazing. If that makes me a traitor, then maybe humanity needs more traitors. Silence followed. Even the engines of the human fleet seemed to hesitate. Harlan's face appeared on one of the hollow screens, furious. You think words will stop this? Daniel stared back. I don't need to stop you, sir. I just need your soldiers to hear me. And some did. Across the fleet, a few ships powered down their weapons, unsure. Doubt had entered the ranks, a virus stronger than any bullet. But Harlan's pride burned hotter. Fire anyway, he ordered. Missiles streaked through the sky, tearing through the clouds. Lariah shouted, shields up, and the entire sanctuary glowed with blinding light as the first wave hit. The ground shook, domes cracked, and Daniel stumbled, pulling Cale close as the ceiling rumbled. Lariah pressed her glowing hands against the console, channeling energy into the shields. Daniel, she shouted, her voice breaking. The heart. It can repel them, but I'll need more time. Daniel grabbed a fallen rifle, staring at the chaos above. Then I'll buy it. He looked back one last time, at Cale's terrified eyes, at Lariah's glowing hands, and he ran into the fire. Because sometimes, to save what's right, you have to stand against everything you once served. The last command. The night sky above the sanctuary moon was no longer peaceful. It burned, streaked with fire and falling metal, as human ships rained destruction upon the Alarian domes. The ground shook with each explosion, dust and glowing fragments raining down like fiery snow. Daniel ran through the chaos, shielding Cale with his arms, shouting for the civilians to move toward the tunnels. Everywhere he looked, terror, light, and courage intertwined. The sanctuary that had once glowed with calm blue now blazed with desperate orange. Daniel, a voice cried behind him. He turned. Lariah was struggling to maintain the shield lines, her hands glowing bright white. Energy surged from her body to the generators, her veins lit with power. She's burning herself out, an Alarian guard shouted. Daniel rushed to her, gripping her shoulders. You can't do this alone. Lariah looked at him, her face pale but calm. The heart listens only to one who feels compassion, not rage, not hate. Her body trembled as she forced another wave of energy outward. Above them, the shimmering dome flickered and held for another few seconds. But Daniel could see the human missiles still falling. This won't stop them forever, he said. I know, she whispered. That's why you must stop him. He didn't need to ask who she meant. Commander Harlan, the man who once trained him, the man who believed mercy was weakness. Daniel's jaw tightened. Where is he? Lariah gestured toward the skies. His ship leads the bombardment. She met his gaze, her voice steady. If you can reach him, maybe you can end this. Cale tugged at Daniel's sleeve, her silver eyes wet. Please come back, Daniel. He knelt and touched her cheek. I'll do everything I can so you'll have a world to come back to. He sprinted toward the hangar, where half-destroyed ships lay scattered. An old Alarian scout vessel still hummed weakly, its engine sparking. He climbed in, the cockpit's soft glow responding to his human touch. System integrity, 47%, said the computer in a calm feminine voice. That's 47 more than I need, Daniel muttered, slamming the ignition. The craft lifted shakily into the smoke-filled sky, rising above the burning domes. As he broke through the clouds, he saw it, the flagship Resolute. A massive warship hovering like a steel god above the battle. Human insignia glowing red along its hull. His comlink crackled to life. Unidentified vessel, you are entering restricted combat airspace. Identify yourself. Daniel smirked bitterly. You know exactly who this is. There was a pause. Then Harlan's voice came through, hard as iron. Ward, he said, I should have vaporized you the moment you betrayed your uniform. And you should have remembered what the uniform used to mean. Daniel shot back. Protection, not slaughter. Harlan laughed coldly. Protection for humans. Ward, nothing more. That's your problem, Daniel said. You think compassion has borders. He pushed the engines forward, weaving through anti-air fire. Missiles streaked past him, 2 hitting his left wing, the ship jerking violently. Warning lights screamed across the panel, but Daniel didn't stop. He dove beneath the Resolute's hull, firing an EMP burst straight into its shield generator. The explosion rocked the massive ship, its lower turrets powering down. Harlan's voice snarled over the comm. You think you can stop me, boy? Daniel gritted his teeth. No, sir. I'm here to remind you what it means to be human. He forced his damaged craft into the docking bay, crashing hard against the metal floor. Smoke filled the cockpit as alarms blared. He stumbled out, coughing, pistol drawn. Guards surrounded him immediately, but before they could fire, he shouted, I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to stop a massacre. Some hesitated, confusion flickering across their faces. He took another step. You all swore an oath to protect the innocent. Tell me, does that oath only count if they look like us? The youngest soldier lowered his weapon first, then another followed. But Harlan himself emerged from the control deck, pistol raised, fury in his eyes. You're a disgrace, Ward, Harlan hissed. A traitor to your blood. Daniel stared back, steady and calm. If mercy makes me a traitor, then maybe I was never loyal to the right cause. Harlan fired, the blast grazing Daniel's arm, spinning him sideways. He gritted his teeth, lunging forward and knocking the pistol from Harlan's hand. They struggled, 2 soldiers from the same world fighting over the soul of humanity itself. Metal clanged, sparks flew, and finally Daniel pinned him down, pressing his sidearm against Harlan's chest. Call them off, Daniel shouted. End the strike. Harlan spat. Never. Daniel hesitated, his finger trembling on the trigger. But then he saw Kale's face flash through his mind, her tiny hand reaching for him. He lowered the gun. That's the difference between us, sir. I still believe there's hope. At that moment, a flash of light burst across the viewport. The heart of Valeria had awakened. Laria's final surge of power expanded through the clouds, spreading like a wave of living light. It washed over the battlefield, shutting down weapons, silencing engines, freezing every human ship in orbit. For a brief, breathtaking second, the war stopped. Every soldier, every alien, every human looked to the heavens. A glow of peace enveloped them. Daniel turned back toward the viewport, tears in his eyes. She did it. But his comm crackled weakly, Kale's frightened voice breaking through. Daniel, Mom's not moving. He felt his heart twist. He turned toward Harlan, still kneeling, stunned by what he'd witnessed. You can still fix this, Daniel said softly. Make it right. And for the first time, Harlan looked uncertain, human again. I don't know how, he whispered. Daniel stared out at the glowing planet below, his voice low but steady. Then start by stopping. When the stars forgave. Silence. That was the first sound Daniel heard after the battle, the kind of silence that feels heavy, full of ghosts and memories. The once roaring sky was calm now, the human fleet floating powerless among the stars, their weapons dead, their engines cold. The heart of Valeria's pulse had washed over everything, a wave of light that spared lives but demanded a price. Daniel stood at the viewport of the Resolute, staring down at the sanctuary moon below, its surface glowing faintly from the energy surge. His comm buzzed with faint static, Kale's voice trembling through the distortion. Daniel, Mom's not waking up. The words hit like a bullet to the soul. He closed his eyes, whispering, Hold on, Kale. I'm coming. He turned toward Harlan, who sat slumped against the wall, dazed, unarmed, no longer the proud commander of Earth's fleet. The man looked older now, small against the endless backdrop of stars. Daniel tossed him a medkit. You'll need this. Harlan looked up, confused. After everything I've done, you'd still. Daniel cut him off quietly. That's what it means to be human. For a long moment, Harlan said nothing, then lowered his gaze, shame creeping into his expression. Daniel didn't wait for thanks. He raced through the corridors, found a small escape pod, and launched it toward the glowing moon below. The descent burned through thick clouds of ash and dust, until finally the sanctuary domes came into view, shattered but still standing. He landed hard, stumbling out into the ruin and smoke. Everywhere, Alarians were helping one another, carrying the wounded, rebuilding broken walls. They didn't run from him this time. They looked at him, a human, with something close to trust. He pushed through the crowd until he saw Kale, kneeling beside a still form near the heart's chamber. Her small hands were pressed to her mother's, her face wet with tears that shimmered like starlight. Daniel, she whispered, her voice cracking, she's gone. Daniel froze, his chest hollow. Lariah lay peaceful, her silver skin faintly aglow, the heart's energy still flickering through her veins. He knelt beside her, his voice breaking. She saved everyone. Kale shook her head weakly. She said you'd come back. She said humans don't forget promises. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He took her small hand gently. And I never will. For a moment, he just knelt there, feeling the cold ground beneath him, the weight of everything that had been lost, and everything still left to protect. Hours passed, and the dawn light began to break over the horizon, soft, golden, fragile. The surviving Alarian elders gathered around the heart, now glowing brighter than ever. Its energy pulsed gently, not like before. Now it was balanced, steady, as if something within it had been healed. One of the elders turned to Daniel, his voice low and reverent. Her essence became part of the heart. She lives within it now. Kale's eyes widened, tears turning into wonder. So she's still here? The elder smiled softly. In every light that shines. Daniel stood, looking up at the faint shimmer of the human ships still hovering above, now motionless. Harlan's last transmission echoed faintly in the calm. Cease fire, stand down. All units stand down. The war had stopped, not because one side destroyed the other, but because one woman showed them what mercy truly looked like. Lariah's sacrifice had done what no weapon could. It reminded two civilizations of their shared soul. Days later, Daniel helped rebuild the sanctuary alongside the Alarians. He learned their ways, how they sang to the crystals to heal them, how they spoke to light as if it listened. And every night, he sat by the heart with Kale, telling her stories of Earth, not the Earth of conquest, but of kindness, of art, of hope. In turn, she told him about the stars, how her people believed each one was a soul that had forgiven the universe for its pain. One night, as they sat beneath the sky, Kale pointed upward. Do you think humans and Alarians will ever live together? Daniel smiled faintly. One day, when we stop seeing us and them, and just see people. She tilted her head. Mom said the stars remember kindness. He nodded, eyes glimmering. Then maybe, one day, they'll remember her too. Far above them, the Resolute drifted silently. Commander Harlan stood alone on its deck, staring down at the glowing moon. He removed his rank insignia and let it fall, clattering softly on the metal floor. For the first time in decades, he didn't feel powerful. He felt human. A message arrived on his console from Daniel Ward. It was simple. Mercy is not weakness, sir. It's the only thing that makes us worth saving. Harlan read it 3 times, then looked out into the void, whispering, Maybe you're right, son. Weeks passed, and the story spread through human colonies and Alarian worlds alike. Of the soldier who disobeyed orders to save an alien child. Of the commander who saw mercy too late. And of the woman whose light ended a war. People didn't agree on all the details, but one truth endured, that humanity's greatest victory came not from domination, but from compassion. Daniel stayed on the moon, not as a soldier, but as a builder, a teacher, a bridge. Kale often held his hand when they walked through the rebuilt domes. Will you ever go back to Earth? She asked one day. He smiled gently. Maybe someday, when Earth is ready to see what I've seen. As night fell again, the heart glowed softly behind them, and in its light, Daniel thought he saw a faint silhouette, Lariah's form, smiling. He whispered into the quiet air, "Rest now, you did it." The wind carried his words upward into the stars. And somewhere beyond the black, the universe seemed to whisper back. Kindness remembered.